Texas 31, Michigan 12. And there is a Michigan side to this too, but I want to start with Texas because you had identified that Texas had the qualities to be able to beat Michigan. Michigan does not have a lot of opponents on its schedule that have these said qualities, but Texas certainly did. But then to me, the way that they were able to execute that, especially in the first half, seems incredibly significant. Is this repeatable? I mean, are we looking at Texas differently than we did yesterday?
It's a good question. So is it repeatable? Yes, it is absolutely repeatable for Texas. Does that mean that I expect them to repeat and play this way every single week? No, probably not. I mean, we see teams play like crazy up and down each week, but I thought Texas had the formula to beat Michigan because it could probably block Michigan well enough, and there's probably maybe 3 teams on the schedule that could do that. We had identified Texas as one of those in the preseason that could do so, and it also had the ability to get Michigan out of the box and play more spread formation on them and get into that Michigan depth. We knew Michigan's front 7 really, really good. Michigan has like 2 really good DBs, and the other 3 it has to play when you spread them out are maybe just good. Maybe they're just okay. But Texas has a lot of variety, a lot of depth at the receiver position. They also have Isaiah Bond, who is very, very good. And I was super impressed with Tom's boy, Quinn Ewers, because those first couple touchdowns that Texas scored, they were not schemed up, right? They were Quinn Ewers showing great mobility and like awareness and escapability in the pocket, keeping his eyes downfield and throwing strikes, dude. And like that is not something that we have always seen Quinn Ewers do. Occasionally, yes, but I mean today that was like big boy ball. And he's now the Heisman front runner, and for good reason, I think, because if you put up those numbers that you did in week 1, you go in Ann Arbor, you do this in week 2, Texas just didn't make mistakes. And I think pretty clearly, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes into the ball game, they're like, hey, as long as we play clean, we're not losing this. Michigan can't score enough on us. Really nice job by Ewers. Clean game by Texas. That's what you want to see if you're a Longhorns fan.
Yeah, like his best throw of the day might have been the touchdown that didn't count because they got
Yes.
called back on the hold. Like he was straddling the sideline, throwing back across his body, and just a perfect throw. I wrote this. It was a lot like like Michigan last year won with a suffocating defense and then a 3rd and JJ offense. And for a lot of this game, Texas was kind of doing the same damn thing. Like it was giving Michigan a taste of its own medicine. The defense was not allowing Michigan's offense to do anything. And on like 1st and 2nd downs, particularly in the first half, Texas's offense was not doing a spectacular job. They were barely averaging over 4 yards per play on 1st down in the first half. And they were going into a situation with Quinn Ewers on the 3rd downs. It was like, all right, just extend this drive, go do something crazy. And I thought Quinn, like you were saying, he did an incredible job. The offensive line deserves plenty of credit because they did a great job blocking when on pass plays. And when they did start giving up pressure, Quinn did a great job of either riding the pocket or stepping up and rolling out and getting somewhere where he could give his receivers time to get open and finding them. And on 3rd down in this game, he was a very nice 6 of 9 for 81 yards and the 2 touchdowns. And then there was that other one, which got called back on the holding, which was also a 3rd down. So it would have been another 3rd down touchdown. So I just think that Texas is clearly like a very good team, and it's clearly one of the favorites in the SEC. And now this is like, we can't forget last year, week 2, Texas goes on the road to Alabama. Quinn Ewers plays great and beats Alabama. This year, week 2, Texas goes on the road to face a number 10, which won't be there for much longer. A number 10 Michigan team on the road, plays great and beats them. Like, this is a guy who has now shown that while he has his, he's not perfect. He has like lackluster games, but in big games and big moments, even if we go back to the semifinal last year, which we lost, who was the guy leading Texas down there in the final minute, giving them a chance to win and nearly winning that game in the last seconds? Quinn Ewers. The kid just has a little bit, whatever it is, when it's money time, he makes plays, man.
I thought there was something different today, though, as far as like it wasn't all this sort of like tricked up, schemed up stuff from Sark, where like last year against Bama, we saw some of that. There was a really nice like rainbow ball that he threw over the top of the defense that just dropped it in a bucket, which was like a big boy play. But there was a lot of just kind of schemed up stuff. Today, I thought he made some like really difficult throws when Michigan correctly took away this, like they anticipated what Sark was going to do. they schemed it up, they stopped it, and then he found like his second read, his third read. He scrambled around, made some stuff happen. 279 to 88 first half yardage advantage, 24-3. Game was over.
Yeah, at halftime.
Like Michigan is a team that absolutely can be game scripted out. They are not built to come from behind. Now, their run defense is pretty good, so obviously they could get some stops, but the offense is certainly not made to play from behind. They really can't drop back consistently and throw the football. I kind of still have some questions about Texas's defensive line if they lost those two stud defensive tackles to the NFL. But at least they passed this test. I'm left wondering a little bit, like, how good is this test? That's 2 weeks in a row. Michigan's offensive line has looked rather poor. I know Sharon Moore is the offensive line guru, but we need a little bit more guru in there in Ann Arbor, because this is not guruing.
Yeah, Michigan added some yards late when the game was over to kind of
make
the box score look better. But overall, Texas only had 3 tackles for loss. It wasn't the most dominating performance from their defensive line, but they sure as hell weren't letting any of Michigan's receivers get open. That was for sure. And
I felt like the back of the defense was flying around, being aggressive, and if you weren't respecting the downfield pass, then you can send the linebacker into the backfield and just let the defensive line just eat up space.
Yeah, and they were forcing turnovers. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And then the other side, it's pretty clear what the game plan is when you're facing Michigan's defense right now. Don't throw to Will Johnson, throw to anybody else. Because the rest of that, Jair Hill, the other guys in that secondary, got abused today. And Texas was picking on them relentlessly without any kind of mercy. And now, the question is, how many times is Michigan going to have to deal with that with the rest of its schedule? We know we've got a couple big games, but most weeks I don't think that's going to be a problem. But when it comes to those big games, the Ohio States, the Oregons, it's going to be a massive problem for them. And it's reason to believe they're probably going to get their butts kicked in those games too, unless they figure that out and get that solved. And then on the other side of the ball, give up the Alex Orji thing. You have to make a decision.
Wasn't that some of the garbage time yards or when they went to what y'all suggested, the Orji and Mullins, just go out there and group of 5 offense type stuff?
Yeah, but when they did it when it mattered, it's it went nowhere. And it's so when Orji comes in, the defense knows what you're doing. You're running the motion across the RPO and you're going. And it just isn't working. You either commit to Davis Warren or commit to Alex Orji. Stop trying to do both. It's not working. It is clearly not working. It didn't work against Fresno State. It sure as hell wasn't working today against Texas. You have to pick a lane. And Davis Warren, I don't think is spectacular, but if you at least just commit to one style of offense, and Chip, you mentioned this in the group text earlier, because I said early in the game, we were talking about it. I said, Michigan's offensive line so far looks better against Texas than it did against Fresno State. And you said, well, they're only having to protect one quarterback instead of playing 2 offenses.
Yeah, we're not having to deal with 2 playbooks.
Yeah,
and having to manage it all at the same time. Sometimes within the same quarter, within successive drives. Yeah,
and I feel like when you've got as much turnover as Michigan does on that side of the ball, if you have a quarterback competition going on and you're both running the same offense and it's not decided, that's one thing. When it's still going on and you have to run entirely different offenses for them, it's not fair to your team. It's not fair to your quarterbacks. It's not fair to your offensive coordinator either, because how the hell is he supposed to game plan when he's got to put 2 different game plans together? So if I'm Michigan, I'm making a decision and just going forward with however it works.
Last things that we have so many good games to get to. I am curious about the Jack Tuttle thing. There was some noise this morning. Would Jack Tuttle go? I know he talked about it a little bit on the broadcast. Let's see if he comes back and ends up being the guy. Because if it's Warren, I'm just not scared of Davis Warren with these receivers at all. They don't scare me. I think Michigan built this entire team around Alex Orji being the guy, 11-man run game, more spread option concepts. That helps out a young offensive line or an inexperienced offensive line quite a bit. Clearly, he just can't throw well enough, and they found that out in what must have been a bit of a disaster of a fall camp. And we'll see. Maybe Tuttle can be the guy. He did get hurt, so I'm holding out hope that maybe he's the dude. We'll see.
Yeah, we got a lot of ends in the chat. So let's see. What was it? We got a little. Are you scared of Davis Warren? This looks like a pretty consensus from the tailgate.
That's a resounding no from the tailgate. Although Alex Puchalowski, yes, but I'm a Michigan,
I'm a Michigan fan.
So the Michigan fans, yes, are terrified. And it's so funny because it sounds dismissive of a college athlete that is playing at the University of Michigan, but these are the standards that we hold to the very top teams in the country. If we do not think you are special, if we do not think that it scares you, if there's nothing that is overwhelmingly impressive, well, then you know who else is saying that same thing? The defensive coordinator of every team that you're going to play on the schedule. So you are hamstrung by this fact that this offense right now does not look dynamic, does not look scary. You are left to hope that you do not turn it over, you do not make mistakes. And the second that Michigan started making any mistakes at all, penalties, anything that piles up, it's they had 3 turnovers in this game. Like Michigan's margin for error is that -3 in the turnover margin. You keep doing that, you're going to go 7-5. I don't think they're going to go 7-5.
They might.
I don't think they're going to be -3 in the turnover margin every single time. But I just to show you sort of like what I think we're dealing with in terms of how much Michigan can mess around before they find out with this squad right now.
This game won't be completed before we finish the show, but whoo, boy, does Mississippi State's defensive line suck, at least through the first 20 minutes of this game. I mean,
and Oregon's offensive line is trotting out the same 5.
Arizona State with a 76% rushing success rate through about 20 minutes. So, yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the announcement on Twitter, but I officially wrote off Michigan.
I did.
I did see.
I'm done.
That's okay. All right. So what about the Michigan side of this? A little bit later on, as you all know, on our Saturday night reaction shows, we like to take a short amount of time, usually about 8 to 9 minutes, to really identify like what the top 25 is going to look like. And so I want to start with just the Texas side of this because I'm going to pitch something to you. Curious at your reaction. I think Texas takes over number 2 from Ohio State.
Ohio State looked like a killing machine today.
Yeah.
I
know it was just Western, but they looked pretty damn bloodthirsty. I can't rule it out. I don't think it'll happen though.
Yeah, I think I'm with Tom. It certainly could happen. I wouldn't totally object to it. Ohio State doesn't have any like real impressive wins so far, but they do look really, really good today. So, but obviously Texas did too.
I think we are drawing the line in the sand at the top 3, and that is your conversation. I would not be surprised if they catch a stray first place vote coming out of this one, like one here or there. But it's that last week, and gosh, I'm so sorry for being nerdy about this, but it's the way it goes. Last week, they were 60 voting points apart. 60 sounds like a lot until you realize that is 1,478 to 1,418. And there were low votes, like votes as low as 6 for Texas. I think that this win takes those low votes and brings them up. And Ohio State, Georgia has Clemson, Texas has Michigan. Ohio State doesn't have that card to put on the table. So not that it matters in the big picture because Texas's season will be defined by what happens in the very biggest games and whether they get to play for the SEC championship, right? I mean, that's what this is going to come down to for the Longhorns. But